Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Now, before we get started with the board's indulgence, I was notified just recently prior to this meeting, that one of our retired teachers just passed away, Miss Sue Knapik. So if we could take a moment of silence right now prior to our meeting to recognize that, I'd appreciate it. All right. Thank you. All right. The moment a couple of you, and probably all three of you, have been waiting for. Before we do the roll call, we'll swear in the returning board member and the two new board members. It's my honor to swear you, all three of you, in. The way we'll do this, since we're doing it over Zoom, is we'll do it individually. So we'll start with Ms. Berkmeyer, the returning board member. So if you want to raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Lisa Berkmeyer,
Solemnly swear to support the Constitution of the United States
solemnly swear to support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this state,
and the Constitution of this state,
and to faithfully discharge the duties of the office of the member of the Board of Education of Anchor Bay School District
and to faithfully execute the office as a member of the Board of Education of the Anchor Bay School District,
of Macomb and St. Clair Counties,
Macomb and St. Clair Counties,
State of Michigan, according to the best of my ability.
of the state of Michigan, according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations, Ms. Berkmeyer.
Thank you.
All right. We'll go to Mr. Richards. Dennis Richards, new to the board. If you can raise your right hand, repeat after me. I state your name. Oh, we got to unmute you. Tim, can you make Mr. Richards and it looks like Miss Knox host?
They are co-host. They just have to unmute themselves.
Okay. I state your name.
I, Dennis Richards,
Solemnly swear to support the Constitution of the United States
solemnly swear to support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this state,
and the Constitution of this state,
and to faithfully discharge the duties of the office of member of Board of Education
and to faithfully discharge the duties of the office of the member of the Board of Education,
of Anchor Bay School District,
Anchor Bay School District,
Macomb and St. Clair Counties,
Macomb and St. Clair Counties,
State of Michigan,
State of Michigan,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations, Mr. Richards.
Thank you.
All right, to our, we'll go to our next new board member, Miss Jill Knox. So if you can raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Jill Knox,
Solemnly swear to support the Constitution of the United States
solemnly swear to support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this state,
and the Constitution of this state,
and to faithfully discharge the duties of the office of member of the Board of Education
and to faithfully discharge the duties of the office of member of the Board of Education of Anchor Bay School District,
Macomb and St. Clair Counties,
Macomb and St. Clair Counties,
State of Michigan,
State of Michigan,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations, Ms. Knox. All right. Now, if the secretary could please call the roll. And I think the two new board members you've been on here, you got to state where you're physically located at right now when your name's called.
Okay, first, Ms. Burkmeyer,
I'm here in Chesterfield, Michigan.
Mr. Moses,
Here, New Baltimore, Michigan.
Mr. Green.
Present in New Baltimore, Michigan as well.
Thank you. Ms. Knox,
Present in Chesterfield, Michigan.
Mr. Richards,
Present, Warren, Michigan.
okay. Mr. DeRue,
President, Madison Heights, Michigan.
Mr. Middlestat, New Baltimore.
All right. Thank
Mr.
you.
Mr.
What's that?
President, the agenda looks really great. I'd like to move to approve the agenda as presented.
So motion to approve the agenda as presented. Is there a second? Well, second it for discussion. So
I'll
what's
second.
the,
Sorry. I was
okay,
muted.
seconded by Mr. Moses. Is there any discussion?
Yes, sir. Actually, I'd like to amend the agenda, and I'll be making that motion very soon.
Okay.
Got a motion on the floor, so I can't do
Yep.
that now.
Okay, so we will go to a vote by roll.
Let's see here. Ms. Burkmeyer,
No,
Mr. Moses,
Yes.
Mr. DeRue,
Yes.
Mr. Middlestat, yes. Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Green,
No.
Mr. Richards.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, motion passes. All right, we'll go to the election of the board vice president. Are there any nominations for the office of board vice president?
I'd like to nominate Pat Green.
Mr. Moses nominates Mr. Green. Are there any other nominations for the office of vice president?
I'd like to nominate Ms. Knox.
Mr. Middlestat has nominated Ms. Knox. Are there any other nominations for the office of vice president? Any other nominations for the office of vice president? Any other nominations for the office of vice president? Nominations for the office of vice president are now closed. We'll move for a vote. So we'll vote, since there's only two, we'll go through, vote by roll, and either Mr. Green or Ms. Knox.
Okay, Ms. Burkmeyer,
Mr. Green.
Mr. Moses,
Mr. Green.
Mr. Green,
Mr. Green.
Ms. Knox,
Mr. Green.
Mr. Richards,
Mr. Green.
Mr. DeRue,
Mr. Green.
Mr. Middlestat, Mr. Green.
All right, congratulations, Mr. Green.
Thank you, sir.
Now the vice president. Go into the next order of business, the reconfirmation of the learning plan. Mr. McDonald?
All right, thank you, President Drew. And I believe Tim is getting us set up with our presentation. Okay, we are back a little earlier than normal in terms of the amount of time in between due to the curriculum meeting falling earlier in the month. So we're going to cover the reconfirmation, and I'm going to review a lot of what we've done in the past and where we are currently at. We know that on December 16th, we just had a reconfirmation, and we do these things in compliance with PA 165, which has us reconfirming every calendar month. So if we go to the next slide. Again, there's 3 things, and I know I repeat this, and I'll continue to repeat them, but just so, especially for the new board members, and I know that you guys have been tuning in throughout the year, but just to review, there's 3 things that the reconfirmation has to include, and that is the how instruction is going to be delivered. We must take public comment specifically on this reconfirmation from our parents and guardians of the district, and we must review the 2-way interactions. And being that we did this on the 16th, we just have 2 more additional weeks to add. Next slide, please. I added 1 slide, and I'm going to go over them real quick because to review what we've kind of done in the past. And I know that the new board members have been present in a lot of the meetings, but I just wanted to quickly, remind that throughout this process, starting in August, that we've looked at a number of options. We've looked at 100% remote K-12. We've looked at the K-2 in person, 3-12 remote. We've looked at a K-12 hybrid with a virtual option. We've looked at secondary block schedule with a virtual option, secondary hybrid block, in hybrid meaning half in a cohort coming in, every other day. And then the block meaning hours 1 through 3 and the 4, 5, and 6 the next day, always with a virtual option. And then what we currently have is the full in-person option with also a virtual option. So just a quick recap of many months of discussions. And if we can go to the next slide, we'll get into some of the details again of where we're at. Again, in pre-K, we have the in-person option and we do have a virtual option. As always, the virtual options may include some live streaming and asynchronous, meaning recorded lesson planning. At this level, it's over 90% in person. There's just a couple of scenarios where their parents have requested the virtual option. Next slide. K-5, we are, as we have been in the past, have the in-person option. We have our virtual option, and with synchronous live instruction and asynchronous instruction. Again, we separate these 2 by teachers, separate teachers for face-to-face, separate for virtual. And in all areas, we're utilizing the Schoology learning management system. It was a move that we were moving to regardless. It's something that we use throughout the county, and we'll use it even after if we move from a virtual option. Next slide, please. Secondary, again, it includes the in-person option, which we were able to resume on January 11th for the secondary, meaning middle school and high school students. I added in here, and of course, the board always has as we review this, the ability to change this, but I know we have discussed and we've gotten some questions based on some of the statements made by the governor saying that there should be a virtual or in-person options by February 1st. I just want to point out that we have that option, and we've had that option from the beginning, and that was stated for those who do not have an option. Doesn't mean everyone has to come back by February 1st, but I just throw that out there because we did get some of those calls and some questions about that. So we plan on having a virtual option into the second semester. And again, that virtual option will be the same as it currently is, live and asynchronous instruction, primarily through our Schoology learning management system. Next slide, please. Again, just to throw in some higher level supports, this question is on the document that I submit to CEPI in the state organization, it asks for higher level supports. We do support our ELL students through tutoring, through the ISD. We also do a hybrid option with our special ed CI classrooms, and that began, or we returned to it as we were on October 5th. And technology is always supported. We have a number of technology trainings and supports, and we also do not have as many requests as the past, which shows that Ashlyn, she's gonna do a presentation with me later, has done an outstanding job of supporting technology issues for our district. All right, next slide. So we're on to the two-way communications. We were updated through the 8th, I believe, last time, and we added the additional 2 weeks. The last week, as you see, before break, the 9th through the 15th. Just to point out too, I know the dates look funny, but the reporting week is Wednesday to Tuesday. And it coincides with our count day Wednesday. So that's why it's always looks a little funny. But that week was 95.18%, and that is making sure that students, whether they're face-to-face or virtual, have contact with teachers. And the week that started right before Christmas break, our winter break, and moved to just after was 94.72. So that is the update of where we're at, and very little has changed as we've only had a week and a half of school since our last confirmation. And we are at the point where, next slide, where again, I just want to point out the transparency page in the case reporting, not a requirement, but again, on the web page, you can see the little COVID-19 case reporting. I checked it just prior to the meeting. There were a couple of occurrences since we've been back, a couple of staff, and I think a student, and very minimal exposures. I think we've had 3 positives and one that involved a quarantine of 5 students. So that's what I'm aware of to this date as far as transparency. So I think that's going fairly well. If you went back in December, you would see a higher frequency of those exposures. So we are now at the point, the last slide, where President Drew, you could solicit any public comment for the reconfirmation.
All right. Tim, do we have anybody signed up, or do you see anybody with their, whoop? Do you have Miss Richards like I do?
Yes, she's the only one and no one else signed up, so this is good.
Okay, we'll go with Miss Richards.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, Stephanie Richards, 9980 Arnold Road. So speaking in the reaffirmation of the plan, I've been asking for some modifications to the plan, and again, you just said nothing much has changed. But in fact, things have changed. You guys have made some changes in the lunchroom, and I'm actually quite a fan of those changes. So I think we should be sharing that with parents. I think that's good. And if there's other changes that have been made, let's get it out there, because I think that's a good thing. So I just wanted to say that. And then I did have a question. Are we going to be offering virtual options for second semester? That's all I have tonight.
Thank you for your comments and your question. I'll go back to Mr. McDonald, let you field those.
Sure. Okay, to answer the question about the changes in the lunchroom, I'm assuming she's referring to it. I hate to make an assumption, but assuming that we are working in the elementary to move towards getting students back in the cafeteria. The thing I'll point out is that's not part of a reconfirmation. The only thing that we reconfirm is how we give the instruction, the rates, and take the comment. The other thing in terms of virtual second semester, absolutely. Yep. And that was in the presentation that we will offer virtual option for the second semester, unless the board decides otherwise.
All right.
So I was talking about the lunchroom. High schoolers, they've added tables, and there's only, I think it's 5 to a table, or it might be 4. And then middle school south, there's less kids allowed at lunchroom tables now, and they're putting some of them in the library. That's what I was referring to.
Oh, okay. Very good. Yes, we did after break add the health department put out additional clarification with 6 feet, and we were able to add more tables. If you've been in the high school lately in the commons, you'll see tables everywhere. So we were able to space those out. Those changes will most certainly help us with exposure rates if we do have a positive. So that is definitely something to help keep kids in school, and we did make those changes. Yeah, I'm sorry, I was thinking elementary because we've been working on that, and that's coming. So a little sneak preview, where we're making efforts to be able to return kids to the lunchroom. Again, it's still in the planning phase. We've been working with the ABEA leadership and the principals to be able to do that. And obviously safety comes first when we do that, and we're looking for opportunities to give kids a little more sense of normalcy, and the teachers a little more sense of normalcy, and to be able to have their classroom and some peace of mind for a little bit of time. But that's in the planning phase as well. Again, not part of the reconfirmation, but important nonetheless.
All right. Thank you, Mr. McDonald. I
You're welcome.
don't see anybody else with their hand up. I'll give them a couple more seconds. Let's see. All right. So is there any comments or questions from the board?
John, I do have a comment or a question, because I don't think we need to make a motion to discuss this, but you can stop me if we do. One thing I'm a little bit concerned on, which we're not seeing now, but I do fear in the short future, is a shortage of staff. With all the other large schools adjacent to us going back full time, there's going to be it's going to be tougher to get subs, for one thing. And the other thing that I would hope to like to discuss or to see discussed is the fact that the shortened hours from the school, although they're great and they give a lot of time, I think they're hindering some of the instruction. The kids aren't having time to practice what they're learning because the class is over so quickly. So I don't know if there's any relevance, or if we could discuss further into the blocks that they were talking. I know that does create a lot of issues, but or possible a virtual option in place in case our cases of COVID start exceeding what we can do, so we don't have to shut down for 14 days. Maybe we can have some sort of emergency plan. Like I said, I just wanted to throw that out there for discussion or to get some information on.
Okay. Good question. Good points. Very good points there. Mr. McDonald?
Well, I wrote down what I heard, and in terms of the shortened hours, it always when there's less time, and that was pointed out that there's pros and cons. The pro is that the teachers were able to get their planning time, and I can tell you, being through the buildings, that planning time is sacred and is still very needed and is being used effectively by teachers. With that said, the instructional time, that 1 hour of office hours each day, is 5 less hours of instruction roughly a week. So there is a trade-off, and I think there would be a point, where we should discuss that, and we can discuss it at any time. It's a real difficult decision to make, because we know that the best place for our kids is in front of their teachers. But when you have secondary staff teaching both virtual and face-to-face, that planning time is critical right now. So, but I'm always open to discussions. I think those pros and cons will not change. I think they'll always be relevant, and it'll always be a matter of trying to determine which one outweighs the other. And in terms of emergency plans, I would say that we are, if the virus, which indicators, and I'm just, from what I've researched and what I've seen through the county and what that it's trending in the right direction. But if we all know that we don't know what tomorrow will bring or the next week, but we always have the ability to go remote if the board feels like that's what we need to do. If things change that dramatically, we're able to do that.
Okay.
I don't know if that answers it well enough or not.
Yeah, you good on that, Mike?
You
Mr.
know,
Moses?
that the answers, I appreciate the answers. And yes and no, I guess would be, I don't want to see the teachers lose that time because I know they need it. I'm just wondering if we should figure out some sort of block scheduling or somewhere to get these teachers their full hour in front of the students, so they're not having to rush through explanations. What I'm hearing, and it's not everybody, but it's some, is that a lot of times the kids don't have time to work on a problem and then ask the questions while the teacher's there, you know what I mean, in front of them, because it takes most of that shortened hour to go over the lesson. And it's a fault of nobody's, but if we could just figure out a way, I think it might help our students. And again, I don't want the teachers to lose their prep hour. I want that to make most important. I know they need it. But if there's a way to find out where we can increase that instruction time, and just to look at it, I know it may be impossible. I don't know, but it's just, like I said, it's happened with my kids too, where, and they just haven't had time to get their questions answered. And then you're waiting for responses, via email, and we're all doing the best we can, but that's what I want to throw out. And thanks, Joe. I do appreciate that answer. That was very good.
Yeah, and Mr. Moses, I think the best thing that, but one thing that we can do is do a better job possibly of making sure that students know and have the knowledge of, that, and how they can contact their teachers during those office hours, to where I know it's not the norm where you're used to asking during the hour. And maybe sometimes you don't realize you have the question until you start working on the work later. But I do know that a couple things that may help that situation is knowing that teachers are taking and answering questions and taking calls and emails, and many of them are on Zoom during those office hours. Additionally, taking advantage of, depending on the subject matter, the tutoring that we've been offering, and then in the nighttime and during, like right after school time. So those are some of the thoughts that I have, but I'll tell you what, we'll keep working on that to try to figure out the best ways to maximize teacher contact and give them, whether we go to a block schedule or keep an hour, you still gotta hold out some time outside of that if you want to give them more planning time, because
Right.
you know what I'm saying? Because it blocks,
I know.
then we will
And
we'll definitely work on those avenues so that kids feel more, they're more confident in how they can get a hold of their teacher when they need help.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I think at this time, Mike, I sent out the committees today, and Superintendent Rathbun and I were talking earlier this week about, working hard to make sure all those committees meet prior to our January 27th meeting. And this would probably be a good thing for Mr. McDonald and the curriculum committee to get together, and they can really go through it, take a deeper dive into what we can do on some of those issues, and then maybe bring that back at the January 27th meeting and kind of go over if there's anything else we can do to, help out what you're talking about. You bring up some very good points. So,
Good.
Any other board members have questions or comments?
I do, Mr. Drew.
All right, Ms. Knox.
Okay. Are we since I'm new here, are we looking at, I've been to a couple of the schools. I'm going to be at 3 more this week. Since we do have virtual option the second semester, we have teachers teaching simultaneous virtual and face-to-face. I'm hoping we're looking at some creative solutions to try to resolve that. I think that kind of piggybacks on what Mike said about them, having adequate time and that back and forth. I know I'm on the curriculum committee, so that's
I'm gonna say it's right up your alley.
right. So I'm hoping that's something that we're gonna continue to look into, and I would love to have that resolved if we can. I mean, everything is new and we're navigating things, but it's just something I want to put out there that I hope we can definitely look into and work with the teachers and the school to see if we can find some resolution, if not to all, at least to a good portion of the classes, to make that a bit easier and give those teachers, be able to give them attention in their classroom and give virtual students their own attention. I know some only have one virtual student, and we don't even want one student to get shortchanged. I know the teachers are doing their best. And like I've said, I've been in their classrooms and seen this going on, and it's very difficult. So just want to put that out there. And since I'm on the curriculum committee, feel free to reach out to me if you have a creative solution.
Yeah, I think it's, I know you and I have talked and I've heard that, you've been in a lot of the buildings, going through the schools. It'd be good to have a fresh perspective going into there. And I know Mr. Richards has as well, and others on the board. I know Ms. Burkmeyer as well. So I think it'd be good, like you said, for the curriculum committee to take a look at that and take that deeper dive. Mr. Richards, I seen you unmuted yourself. Did you have something?
All set, thank you.
Okay. Any other board members?
I just wanted
Ms.
to
Burkmeyer?
add,
Yep.
I just wanted to add, I know we would all like to have our situation go back to our usual course, but I just want us to keep in mind that to what extent we might be limited by the LOA that we have right now with the teachers union. So anything that we're, even with curriculum committee, which I would be on as well, might be pertinent to invite leadership or, to that meeting, because certainly we would have to amend or recreate, a new LOA to be able to move forward. I believe, if I remember the LOA correctly. So it's just something to keep in mind as well. Not that it can't be done. I think all sides want us to be able to do the best we can. And maybe after having some time in the trenches, like I said, there's better ideas or new things that we can come up with or implement as well. So that's just something I think we all got to keep in mind, though, that it's not just a flip of the switch decision that we can make even as a board. So.
No, and I think you bring up a great point about, the leaders, bringing the leadership into your into the curriculum committee meeting to see where they're coming from. And I know Mr. Rathbun and I have talked about that as well, about him reaching out to the ABA president and seeing where we can, I'll let him speak to it. I'm sure he'll speak later to it, but, to build on the things we can do to maybe change some things and move forward. So, but you bring up great points as well. I guess we're down to Mr. Green. I lost you on the top row there. You got anything?
No, I guess one quick question.
Okay.
We obviously had some concerns with staffing shortages and even had to call school, in between, I think, Thanksgiving and Christmas. So maybe Mr. McDonald or Mr. Rathbun can talk about how we're doing for these first, 8 days of school in elementary and 3 in high school, and how our staffing levels are looking. So we have an idea if we think we've got a situation coming. I know Mr. Moses mentioned all the other districts starting back up and maybe taking our subs. So certainly that's a concern.
Yeah, Mr. Green, if we had a crystal ball, it'd be great. But unfortunately, we don't. What we do know is that the infection rate has come down substantially from the end of November, beginning of December. We're also looking at the number of cases in Macomb County in November, December timeframe. They were ranging somewhere between 700 and 1,000 cases per day. we're down to around 200 a day. So that's come down significantly. We're obviously in conversation and contact with Macomb County Health Department. Things seem to be trending in the right direction. We're hopeful that in the coming days and weeks, staff will start to be vaccinated, and we'll have that opportunity to get our staff vaccinated. Those are unfortunately coming slow right now, but we hope that that's going to increase over the coming weeks. So that, along with some of the measures that Mr. McDonald talked about with respect to the distancing that we're doing at lunch and other subtle measures such as that, we believe that we will be able to keep our staff and our students safer at this point in time than we were able to before. But we will not stop. We'll continue to work on that, continue to work at that to make our environment as safe as we possibly can. That said, we also have staff that have returned. We have a very healthy staff at this point in time. We hope to keep them that way. And, with those factors, that was really kind of the impetus for us feeling like we could return to work and do it in a safe manner. We hope that what we'll be able to do is continue that, but no guarantees, unfortunately, at this point in time. And we'll continue. That's part of the reason why we have these reevaluation meetings, and we'll continue to monitor all of the data, and we'll make data-based decisions as we go forward, and keep the board abreast of that. And if required, as you vested the power with Leonard, I would follow the same guise that the board has provided. And, if we have to call off a day, we'll call off a day. But I don't want that to necessarily stand in the way of face-to-face or in-person instruction, as Mr. Moses talked about, and we've all talked about a lot. In-person instruction, face-to-face instruction is the absolute best for our kids. And so we're going to do everything in our power to keep staff safe and maintain that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Rathbun. Mr. Green. All right. So with all that being said, is there a motion to approve the reconfirmation plan as presented?
I'll make that motion, sir.
Motion by Mr. Green. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Middlestat. Vote by roll.
Ms. Burkmeyer,
Yes.
Mr. Moses,
Yes.
Mr. Green,
Yes.
Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Richards,
Yes.
Mr. DeRue,
Yes.
Mr. Middlestate, yes.
Motion passes. All right, before we get into the planning for the future, I just want to remind the parents and the viewers and even the newer board members that this is, the curriculum board meeting. That's why I got some questions on the agenda. That's why it looks a little different. This meeting is meant for, curriculum, everything revolved around student learning, teaching methods, and, anything that the curriculum directors and Mr. Rathbun would be bringing up. And then we put the open forum towards the end in case there's any decisions we're going to make. We would talk about it afterwards, kind of put out there what votes will be taken, then we'll go to open forum and we'll make those votes afterwards. There are some things tonight, obviously, that were business-wise that we had to get done due to the new board members and some other things that need to get done. So with that, we'll go to planning for our future and the project lead the way with Ms. Kenward.
Mr. President, I wish to make an adjustment to the agenda and amend the agenda under item, Roman numeral 5, adding 2 more items. Item D as in David, former superintendent's separation agreement, as well as item E, Edward, Board of Education organization.
The first one, former what?
Former superintendent separation agreement.
You're putting these as 5 and 6 before open forum. Okay.
Well, I actually planned on.
Or no, before
Planning.
you want to do it
for the-
now, before planning for the future.
No, sir, I was hoping to add them as David and Edward, D and E on planning for the future.
Oh, D and E.
In the future.
Sorry. Yep, D and E. All right. Motion by Mr. Green to add, change the agenda to add a D, former superintendent separation agreement, and E, Board of Education organization. Is there a second?
I second.
Seconded by Ms. Knox. Is there any discussion?
I just want to remind board members to be cautious of what can be discussed of the superintendent separation agreement.
Yeah, I'd be concerned of putting that on the agenda to discuss.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, obviously it can be a, per the terms of the agreement, we're not supposed to discuss
Yes.
the agreement, or, so we'll see where that goes, but, any other discussion on the motion? Vote by, what's that?
No, we're trying to keep this as part of the curriculum, so I just think it's just out of line in terms of what we're trying to do today, but that's fine.
Yeah, I don't think it fits the meeting, but, if that's so what you so desire, we'll vote by roll.
Okay, Ms. Burkmeyer,
Yes.
Mr. Moses,
No.
Mr. Green,
Yes.
Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Richards,
Yes.
Mr. Drew,
No.
Mr. Middlestat, no.
Okay, motion passes.
No, point of order,
Okay.
Mr. President, that the agenda was approved. It requires a 2/3 vote to amend the agenda.
That is absolutely not true, sir. According to Robert's
true.
Rules of Order, sir,
Nope,
my
no, that's
motion
absolutely wrong.
supersedes your
Once the
motion.
agenda is approved,
We're gonna,
Nope, that's-
I'm gonna, as the chair, I'm gonna, it takes 4 votes. We'll do the 4 votes. If I'm wrong, but it will do the 4 votes, the motion stand. We'll go to D and E. I should have just voted yes anyway. So,
Mr. Chairman, we have an attorney tonight, don't we? Can we ask the attorney to make an? Hey, Ms. Schwem, we have Ms. Schwem today at our meeting, correct?
yeah, Ms. Swem, the board attorney is here tonight for issue later on down the line.
Can we ask her,
Um,
what her knowledge is of the rules?
Ms. Swem, can, Mr. Sizemore, can you unmute Mrs. Swem?
She is unmuted.
Okay, Ms. Swem, can you give us your opinion on whether or not it has to be this way or whether or not it's the chair's call?
Yes, I would have to first look at your board policy or bylaws to see what rules of order were adopted, if any. And then I would next need to look at whatever those rules were. I'm not a parliamentarian.
Yeah.
To determine if the adopted rules apply to this particular situation. What I can tell you as a matter of law is that there is nothing as a matter of law that requires a supermajority for this situation. Rather, it's all parliamentary procedure. So it would first depend on what rules of order this board has adopted. And then we'd go to those rules of order to see the answer.
I
Yeah,
believe it's Robert's rules, so.
no, my concern is, Ms. Swem, I'm looking in I don't believe it's in our policy. I'm re-looking to make sure. And we've had this talk of the 5-vote majority, and, you know, Ms. Burkmeyer last meeting addressed a few issues she looked up, and since then I've looked up some other things in it. I don't think we want to get into making it 5-vote supermajority, so.
That's the Robert's Rules of Order, John. That's our policy states for Robert's Rules. That's Robert's
Correct.
Rules.
I beg to differ, sir.
All right, seeing as you guys can challenge me or whatever, but I'm gonna rule that they're allowable and they stand, and we'll go to them after letter C. So after all that fun, we're gonna start with Project Lead the Way, back to what we're here for as kids. Ms. Kenward.
Good evening, Board of Education. Tonight, I would like to update the board on a new program that we're offering for students at the high school, computer science. Before I update the board on computer science, I thought I would just give a little background on what Project Lead the Way is. So Project Lead the Way is the curriculum that we use to support STEM. And STEM is science, technology, engineering, and math. So in the Project Lead the Way curriculum, all of those STEM pieces are incorporated inside. So computer science update. So this year we're excited that we added another new program to the high school students. And this program is also another college-bound program. And it also is supported by our district's K-12 Project Lead the Way goals. So what's exciting about this second program, as you all know, students are able to take Project Lead the Way K through 8th grade. So now they will have the second option at the high school if they would like to continue on with the computer science piece. So we've had the engineering piece at the high school for 4 years, and now we have the second Project Lead the Way completion program. Next slide. Why do we use Project Lead the Way curriculum? Well, the big reason why we use the Project Lead the Way curriculum is because it empowers our students, and it is building the confidence that our students need. Students develop in-demand transportable skills, problem solving, critical thinking, team building, and communication. And if you've ever had the opportunity to visit any of our Project Lead the Way classrooms, those skills, the team building, the communication, and the critical thinking are very evident in all of the classrooms. The other nice piece with the Project Lead the Way curriculum is it allows students to explore career pathways. Most students that are in high school are very confused about what they want to do when they graduate high school, what pathway they would like to choose. So offering these programs to our high school students gives them that option and that confidence to see, hey, I would like to pursue this further. Maybe I would not like this option. Next slide, Tim. So we added the new program in the fall of 2020. Mrs. Kitchen is the teacher of the program. And just so everybody is aware that she actually took 154 hours of training last summer with Project Lead the Way. This doesn't include her homework and the projects that also went along with the training. Our computer science curriculum engages students with compelling real-world challenges. And students not just learn how to code, but they become better thinkers and communicators. So when students start taking computer science, they don't instantly start coding. The nice piece about this curriculum is it allows students to build the foundation blocks before they go to the next level. Next slide. So right now we teach these courses because it's new at the high school. The first course that we teach is Computer Science Essentials. It's a first semester course. Students are creating programs for the Android devices, and then they're also programming some self-driving vehicles. They end first semester being introduced to Python code. And then when students take the class second semester, they lay more of the foundation work in Python. And it helps our students if they plan on going on to AP Computer Science Programming course. So this course gets them prepared. And right now we have 5 students that are enrolled in our AP Computer Science Programming course, and with plans for them to take the AP test in the spring. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board?
Mr. I do have a couple questions.
All right, Mr. Richards.
How many CTE programs does the Anchor Bay School District currently have?
16.
16. And how often do we add new programs?
So we added this program in the fall. So we take a look at the needs of the district, the newer programs that are out there by the state. So we added this program in the fall, and 2 years ago, we added the cybersecurity program.
Okay. And have we ever surveyed the students, asking them for any wishes when it comes to CTE programs?
So we have advisory boards for every one of our programs. And for every one of our programs, we have students and parents, and we have employers that participate, and we meet twice a year, and we talk to students in regards to the programs.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Any other questions or comments from the board? All right, we'll go to Professional Development Day update.
Yes, thanks, President Drew. I'm going to handle that update, and as soon as we get the presentation back up, we'll give you a little update on our Professional Development Day that we have on Monday, the 18th, on Martin Luther King Jr. Day. And on the next slide, please. All right, that's our next upcoming Development Day. Each year on Martin Luther King Jr. Day, we lately have had professional development, and in the spirit of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., we have always included a diversity training. That diversity training over the years has included many things, not just race, but often race issues are addressed, but we've also talked about socioeconomic diversity. We've talked about, variety, including, anything you can think of. We've had the Office of Civil Rights in the past to cover some things. We've had attorneys cover some issues. And this year, we also, I wanted to point out in our curriculum council meeting, we had on the 12th, which was yesterday, we meet twice a year, once each semester with curriculum council. And that council includes teachers, principals, central office administrators, and a parent. And what we reviewed the curriculum that we have for the PD Day, and then we also took input for the remaining professional development days that the one we have in March and in May. And we also talked a little bit about summer work in committees that we would need possibly with, taking a look at our curriculum pacing, our curriculum alignment, as we've been talking about throughout this meeting earlier in the reconfirmation, with the lack of, the reduced contact time. Some of our pacing has to be adjusted, and it goes without saying that it wouldn't be exact with last year or the year before due to some of those things. So we've met to start to discuss those things, and we'll continue to meet to make adjustments as needed and take input from staff on professional developments that they need. That committee encompasses all the levels and all the schools. So if we could go to the next slide, we'll get into some of our details about January 18th. And this is just an overview of some of the things we're going to do. We'll start today in a K-12 setting. This professional development day will be done remotely, and the buildings will all be open. Teachers can be in, access their rooms, and we'll make sure that we continue to follow all the safety protocols while we're in person. And we're going to start with the diversity awareness. We're using our Safe School Training. Safe School Training is the system that we use to do all of our different trainings like bloodborne pathogens and Title IX and things like that, bullying, so that it will be definitely quality. It covers all the areas of diversity, and it focuses on, you know, just some things that we all need to keep in mind when we're talking and conversing with staff, with each other, colleague to colleague, and also to our students. And then after that training, we're going to break up into grade level or grade level and secondary elementary groups to do some more specific detailed training. At the secondary level, the morning after the training, we'll focus on some technology training, and the afternoon will involve PLC times and course teams where our professional learning communities, course team specific, can get together and work on items like midterm exams, et cetera, and how we're going to adjust those and so on. We'll get into some more details on the next couple slides. At the elementary level, in the morning after the training, we are going to continue that phonics training. If you recall, Mrs. Van Hull gave the presentation on the Lucy Calkins phonics program that we piloted last year and have implemented. So this was the kits are all in, and training will resume for K2 and young fives, grade 3 through 5. Their focus is going to be on math and reading and the MESA writing units, reading and writing and math. So they're going to look at those lesson plans and make some adjustments. The special teachers, because of, you know, those things don't fit with them, they'll meet as a whole group. They're gonna talk about making a shift for some of those that are remaining in the classroom. Some of those like Mandarin and art and music, and talk about moving it back to those rooms and how we can do it safely, and also do some whole group planning. Can we move to the next slide, please? Special education has a breakout of their own that's going to occur in the afternoon, and they'll take a look at data. They'll have some individual time and look at some of their caseloads, considerations with that. And also Frank Kuzmano, our supervisor, is going to work on some IEP development, some future training, and making sure that we're in compliance with all, you know, an IEP is about a 24-page document, and there's lots of details there. So each year we review those type of compliance issues, and no better time to deal with it than on Martin Luther King Jr. Day, just to keep everyone in mind. All right, so I referenced Ashlyn earlier, and she's just done an outstanding job, and there's pages of technology trainings that she has put together for us. She's our instructional technology coach, and the focus of the secondary technology training, as we're trying to develop new trainings, two things are in mind. Number one was student engagement, all right, and just making sure that whether it be in person or face to virtual, that we have students engaged and not just kind of sitting like you all are and listening to me, but actually engaging. Discovery Education has some wonderful features to it. It's supported by our ISD. Our ISD also offers trainings. Just some highlights that you know, Ashlyn will get into details are virtual field trips. We haven't been able to go on a field trip at any level really in a long time. There's some things that we're able to do, and you know, places that we can visit through Discovery Education that, you know, are across the world, and interactive boards, K-12 videos, read alouds. I'm going to invite Ashlyn to give us a real quick overview and actually take you to the Discovery Education site to where you can see what a teacher would see. So Ashlyn, if you could take over and walk us through a brief presentation of the Discovery Education. This is the focus of secondary. And just to say to the elementary viewers, and we talked about it, Curriculum Council, it is definitely applicable to elementary, and those trainings will be offered. And this will be the recording. It will be recorded on the PD day for elementary teachers to also view. Thanks, Ashlyn.
Thank you. Well, good evening, everyone. Thanks for allowing me to speak for a few minutes. We thought it would be best if we could show you really what Discovery Education looks like to teachers. And so I'm actually in the platform right now, and basically it has a lot to offer. I mean, a lot of people think of Discovery Ed as strictly videos, but they've added a lot of new features over the years. And now they have virtual field trips, interactive boards, kid-friendly videos and images. They're all education friendly and in one place, which is kind of nice. And I just wanted to show you what that looks like. Teachers can come into this platform and they can search by subject area. So math, reading, science, that type of thing. Or they can search by the content standards. So if they know they have to teach a particular standard, they can pull content from there. But for me, myself, I know when I come into this, I'm looking for something very specific. So let me give you an example here. We'll do the Civil War. Let's say I need to teach the Civil War and I'm looking for some resources to help me teach. So if I were to type in something like that, a whole bunch of content pops up here. But what's nice is teachers have the ability to come in and filter by different grade levels, K2, 3, 5, and you've got middle school and high school as well. And one of my favorite features is the ability to filter by type. So when Mr. McDonald said, we don't have quite as many field trips this year, that can be really important. So if I really want to engage my students and give them something fun and interactive to do in class, I might search by interactives. And so you can kind of see the results that pop up here. So, maybe I choose a virtual field trip on a panoramic of Fort Sumter and take my students through exactly what it looks like so they feel like they're there. And I have to say that one of the great things about this resource is teachers have the ability to assign content to students as an assignment, or they could do it whole group. So with us returning in person, they could do this as a whole class activity. And this is fully integrated with our learning management system, Schoology. So any course that a teacher teaches, it is built right in, and both our students and teachers have access to that from Schoology. So it's very easy to get to, very easy to assign content. So we're really excited to show teachers everything that it has to offer and engage our students. With that, I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Ashlyn. And again, I can't thank her enough. And I know our teachers and principals echo her praises on how much training and whatever the level might be, it could be a high level, or she can get right in and help those users that are really struggling. So thank you, Ashlyn. Tim, if we could go back to the PowerPoint. The other great thing about Discovery Education is that as a former history teacher myself, when you're looking for videos or anything to add, you always want to make sure it's, you just can't search the internet and you never know what you might find on there, right? But that with Discovery Education, it's vetted, it's made for educators, and it is a high quality piece to share with kids. So that is the focus of our, the main focus of our technology training for secondary. Again, it will be available for elementary as we progress forward, and nothing would stop them from using it right away. Or I have to say, some of our teachers are already familiar. However, the masses have not been trained in it. So if we go to the next slide, because we know that, there's some people who have already understand Discovery Ed and they've already used Discovery Ed, we always have more than just one thing. But Socrative is another really good tool. It's for those of you, it's like a formative assessment. So students can go to the Socrative.com and teachers can pre-create a true and false question. They could do a multiple choice. They could put kids in groups and let them compete on getting the right answers. But what it does is it forces kids to students to interact by going to a website and answering, and gives then the teacher the feedback, which is all sorted, so that teachers know what questions were answered correctly, which ones weren't, they didn't do so well, and it gives them a report on it. And it's, it's quick, it's easy, it's fun, and they can use it for a real quick exit ticket. Some of these, my suggestion would be, if they're using Socrative and they can get a real quick feedback on what they know and what the students don't know, maybe they can, do with a little less homework, because they know that the kids are involved, and they know, what the students have learned. That's going to be offered. Ashlyn did an entire training on that. If we go to the next slide, I'll show you 3 more. And I won't read them all to you, but the Ed Puzzle, again, that is students making their own videos, and you can assign the videos, and it's work that kids can do independently. Spiral, another real quick formative assessment where you can create polls, discussions, and again, you can get feedback from kids really fast and easy and fun. And Flipgrid is kind of neat. The first line there, you flip the script, the teacher poses a question, and then the students create a video and send it back to the teacher. So that's a little different, and all these types of things are just more engaging than submitting a typed document or some type of homework. So we've really spent some time, and Ashlyn has scoured, and we've did some research on how can we get students more engaged in their learning. And we all know the more you're engaged, the more you retain. So, and the more fun it is, and the more apt you'll continue. So that is a look at the secondary trainings. Again, while the elementary, next slide, is focusing on, oh, that was it. While the elementary is focusing on their phonics, their math, and their writing, we're going to work on secondary. We're going to work on technology, and then the afternoon are when they have a lot of the time where they get to work together in their groups and make adjustments on what they've learned in the morning. So that's our plan for this upcoming Professional Development Day on the 18th.
All right.
Any questions?
Very nice presentation, Mr. McDonald and Ms. Ashlyn. And let's go to any board comments or questions. Mr. Richards?
Yeah, just a couple of quick questions on the Discovery Ed. Is that something that we've already started using? And if so, or if not, what grade level are we going to be using that?
So I know we've been using it, but I know, Ashlyn, you know more of who's actually using it, what grade level they teach.
Yeah, I can speak to that. This is fully supported by our MISD. And so for me personally, I've gone through, they call it their Discovery Ambassador program. And I do know a couple teachers in the district that had done that even prior to me doing that. So we do have a handful that are pretty proficient with it. But overall, this is very new. Tim Sizemore and I just recently set up single sign-on for this program in the last month. So this is really the launch, where we give teachers the overview, and it is optimized for K-12. So all levels can benefit from it.
Great. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Any other board members? All right. We'll go to the HOSA and Culinary Arts update.
Good
Ms.
evening, board
Edward?
again.
Yep.
Tonight, I have the opportunity to talk about some amazing students that we have in HOSA and Culinary Arts. Before we go ahead and announce our winners, and I'm pretty excited because I know we have a lot of the students that are Zooming in, but I thought it would be a good opportunity to update the board on what actually HOSA is. We talk about HOSA all the time, but actually what is HOSA? HOSA is Health Occupation Students of America. This is an after-school student organization. They normally meet once a week. Right now, they've been Zooming once a week. This year, we have 47 students that participate in the HOSA chapter. So when students participate in HOSA, their big events are competition. So they participate in regional competition with the hopes that they will be recognized and asked to compete in state competition. So when students compete in regional competition, they actually are able to choose over 51 different events. So they have a whole wide range of different medical events that they can compete. This year we are in region 16 and we actually have 16 high schools. So when kids go to compete, they're competing against 16 other high schools. Right now, I'm just going to give you a couple names of the high schools that we competed against. Walled Lake, Fraser, West Bloomfield. We also competed against the IA Academy in Bloomfield Hills. So we virtually competed Saturday, December 19th, so the day after Christmas break. All of our HOSA students, they participated in an all-day event. And this year we had 13 students that are qualified to represent Anchor Bay in the states in Traverse Cities, which will be virtual. So at this time, I would like to congratulate all of our winners. The first winner is Katie Poole. She actually won first place. So of all of the 16 high schools, she was #1 from Anchor Bay. So that is awesome. So her award she won was in clinical specialty. Emily Babinski received an award in medical terminology. Anelia Bowman and Nadiri Nolan, CPR and first aid. Isabella Moses, medical math. Gabriella Palumbo, medical terminology. Leah Troyer, pathophysiology. That's quite a name there. Daniel Davidson and Caitlin Ragland, public health. Jack Cooney, Eva Dixon, Lauren Dooley, and Scarlett Martell. They actually received a second place medal in community awareness. So congratulations to all of our winners in Anchor Bay. We are so proud of you. And I would like to, at this time, give a great big shout out to Mrs. Dixon. And if you can see on the screen, but when they announced the winners, which was actually December 23rd, she is actually screaming on the Zoom. That's how excited she is for these students. So it was pretty awesome to watch. Our students would not be successful without her coaching and without her background in the medical field. So thank you again, Ms. Dixon. And any students that you are aware of that are interested in the medical field, this is a great opportunity. It's a college-bound program. It's a 3-year program. So it's a great program for our students. And again, congratulations.
All right. Oh, yep.
Oh, I'm sorry. Moving on to culinary arts. So this year, Macomb Daily highlighted one of our programs, which was culinary arts. This is a unique hands-on program where students operate the Shoreliner Restaurant, and the Shoreliner Restaurant is located at Middle School South. We have over 500 students that pass through this program yearly, and we normally have a waiting list for students to enter into this program. Students learn skills, customer service, food production, safety, and also get to explore the art of cooking. With this program, we have over 100 articulation agreements nationwide, including Macomb Community College, Baker College, and Ferris State University. So what an articulation agreement is, if students participate and complete this program and say they would go on to Macomb Community College, they would be able to get out of some of the classes because of the level of skill that they learned in our high school program, which saves students money. So that's pretty exciting that students have that option as well. So if you could take a look, and I know board members, I believe you received the PDF version of the Macomb Daily article. We do have copies at central office. So this is highlighting some of our students current and past students. So we are pretty excited to talk about Joey Moses. He is a junior at Anchor Bay High School. And on September 16th, he started his own food truck business, Mojo Coffee Company. This truck specializes in coffees, teas, and hot chocolates. And you will see this food truck all over the community. You probably saw it in the farmer's market this summer in New Baltimore. He also frequently is seen at Dave's Pizza in Chesterfield. And in December, this is kind of a cool thing. Joey partnered with Great Oaks Elementary, and they adopted 2 families at Great Oaks. And Joey did an event, and he took all of his proceeds to go towards that initiative. So Joey, we are pretty proud of you. Keep up the good work. And I'm just going to highlight a few of our past graduates. Joshua, you see his picture there. He went to culinary school in Novi, and he has a restaurant. If any of you have been there, it's New Age Cafe on Hall Road. They specialize in Asian food. Olivia Rinke, when she graduated from our program, received her associate's degree in pastry arts from Macomb College. She actually works as a pastry chef in a restaurant downtown Birmingham. Kenneth Barker graduated a couple years ago, and he was asked to work in New York City's Michelin-starred restaurant, which is pretty awesome. And he hopes to open his own restaurant one day. And again, I would like to give a big shout out to Chef Reitner. Our kids would not be where they are currently if it wasn't for him. He's been with Anchor Bay for a long time, and we are very fortunate to have Chef Reitner. Thank you.
All right. Very nice presentation. Awesome. Congratulations to all those students. Any of those Moses, Mr. Moses?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Yes, one's my daughter and one's my nephew.
All right.
And I couldn't be more proud of everybody that was on that list.
Oh yeah.
You guys
No.
did an amazing job. We have some very special kids and instructors in this school.
Yep.
Yes, we do. That was a great highlight of one area of all the successes in this district. So any other board members? Mr. Richards?
I just had a question with the culinary arts. So the students are able to get college credit with some of the classes that they're attending from the culinary arts?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, great. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other board members have any questions or comments?
I just want to say congratulations to all the students and as well as the instructors. They're fabulous programs. I know a year ago around this time, Mrs. Kenward invited the board members to come to the restaurant, and it was for late February, and I was planning to come, and then of course everything. Actually, I think that day was a snowstorm. That was just prior to COVID. So hopefully, I'm sure those are very, exciting pieces for the students as well. So hopefully, we reach a point where that will be able to come back into their curriculum too. But I'd look forward to being able to come when we're allowed to run that portion of it.
Thanks.
All right. Any other board members? All right. Thank you again for that presentation, Ms. Kenward.
Thank you.
So now we will move to former superintendent separation agreement. Mr. Green?
So, Mr. Drew, I appreciate you giving me the latitude to discuss this. And although I do have some questions directly for you, sir, I think it would be in the best interest of you and I, quite honestly, in avoiding any kind of conflict with that particular agreement, that we don't discuss it. So I don't know if I need to make a motion to remove item D or how you would like to proceed with that, sir, but I have no further comment or question on item D.
All right. Well, duly noted. We'll move on from there. Board of Education organization.
I would make a motion at this time that Mr. Drew step down and that a new board president is elected tonight and takes that office effective immediately.
You're making a motion to ask me to step down?
I could ask you to step down, sir, or we could make a motion to remove you from the office.
Well, I'm not going to step down. I believe I'm doing a good job in this role. I believe that I'm putting my heart and soul into working for this district, working with the new board members. I got a lot of things going right now. If that's your feeling and if that's the feeling of the board, then so be it.
Well, very good, sir. Then I will make a motion to remove Mr. Drew as president of the Anchor Bay Board of Education.
Okay. Is there a second? Seeing no second.
I will second that.
Okay. Seconded by Ms. Birkmeyer. Is there any discussion? Well, Mr. Middlestat, you got discussion?
Okay. Ms. Birkmeyer.
No, I said, do you have any discussion?
Oh, I can't. Sorry, then. No, I think, John, you've done a pretty good job here in the last month or two getting things pulled together. We've got the bond issue, not bond issue, but looking at focusing on the needs of the district. The curriculum meeting today is a fine example, and I know you've been discussing with the new board members get things started rolling. You got the committee set up. It looks very fine to me that you put various people together as far as the committees go, and we've had our differences in the past, but I think we're focused now, and I think we got a good vision of where we want to go with the district this year. And I would hope that the rest of the board would kind of let us try to get through the next 6 months with everything else going on. And if it's at that time, if it's a terrible situation that you've created in the next 6 months, then sure. But at this point, I think with everything else going, with, like I said, you got some good things going. We've got a new superintendent to look for, and we got Todd to work with. So there's a lot of stuff going on. I just think this is just going to confuse things, but you know.
Well, any other discussion from board members?
You know, I would only add to Mr. Middlestat's comments that I agree that we do have 2 new board members and a new superintendent. And in an effort to, I don't want to say clean the slate, but to get us a fresh start moving into this year, I think a change in the leadership from what's currently seated is what's needed, and that's why I've made this motion.
Well, I would say this, Mr. Green, it's fair. You and I have had some differences and some big differences as of late. This old board with the 2 new board members coming in, obviously the past 2 years, we've talked about it over and over again. There's been a lot of issues. If you recall, when we first came onto this board, you immediately wanted me to take out the sitting president at that time. I didn't do it. Then some lies were told, some other things were done, and I ended up, we did it. We took them out. Through my experience on this board, and I've met with many, many parents, I've met with people, and I've never really, as a lot would say on both sides of the former board, was picked a side because I do what I think is right. I went to the superintendent at that time, found out what was going on. I actually met with him, asked him the hard questions. Was I always right? No. Did I always do everything the way by the, within the lines? Probably not. But I believe my heart, and like I said, my heart and soul is where it's at. I'm trying to do the best I can for this district. I didn't want to knock you out when I came back into this role, but after talking with you through the 2 years with Ms. Birkmeyer, Mr. Moses, you guys all, it was a well-known fact we wanted the superintendent out. I thought your guys' way of wanting to belittle them, besmirch them, go against them, make them look bad every situation you could. Not to say he didn't do some things wrong. I thought that was wrong. So I chose, that's probably why you brought up the former superintendent separation agreement. You got some differences of opinion.
And Mr. Drew, I don't mean to interrupt you, Mr. President, with all due respect. The reason I haven't broached that, and you're now broaching it and making comments that are actually, I believe, specifically prohibited in that agreement.
No,
So I
you
would
can't make
caution you.
disparaging, we cannot make disparaging remarks about the superintendent, which I am not. I know the agreement. I worked on the agreement. So what I'm saying is, through all of that, I did what I thought was best for the district. The two new board members, they've been around, they've been to these meetings. They can make that choice for themselves. Maybe they have a choice coming into here and they believe, maybe you guys have met. I don't know. It's all I can say is I've reached out to them. I've talked to them individually. I'm currently working with MASB, with MLI. I tried to call you several times. I tried to call Ms. Berkmeyer several times. You guys don't want to answer. You don't want to talk. That's fine. Again,
Did you leave me a message, sir?
No, but I did call you. If you want me to pull up phone records, if that's what we want to go to, we can go there. But anyways, that's not what I'm trying to get into, Mr. Green. You and I will get along. We'll do whatever we got to do to move this district forward. As I've said time and time again, I want to do good things for kids. I was on the phone call before here with Mr. Kuzmano and Ms. Kenward, trying to build a house like I've been talking about. We're finally broaching that, getting there. I put those committees together. I tried to make it fair across the board, put new board members on it, putting Ms. Berkmeyer where I feel she's dedicated, where she likes to be, where you like to be. I tried not to, pull out the knives like you're trying to do right now. I tried to be the bigger man. So, but I've said, Mr. Green, whatever, if the board chooses that they do not want me, then that's fine. Then we move on and we go to the next, but I'm just letting the board members know we're talking about from now till August, we keep the board the same and we have our organizational meeting. Whoever becomes president. We don't want to go down these roads again. This was another meeting on a curriculum night that's supposed to be about students. You could have waited to the January 27th on a business meeting, but you took a meeting that's about kids and you sullied it. So that's why I allowed it was against Robert's rules. I allowed it because I'm not going to sully two meetings. We'll do this, get it out of the way. Whatever happens, happens. So with that, vote by roll, Mr. Middlestat.
Okay, Ms. Berkmeyer,
Yes.
Mr. Moses,
No.
Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Richards,
Yes.
Mr. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Middlestat, no, Mr. DeRue.
No. All right. Motion passes. So now we need to elect somebody to run an election.
I believe the vice president takes over that role, sir.
Go for it.
Thank you, sir. I will open the floor for nominations for president of the Anchor Bay Board of Education.
I'll nominate you, Pat.
Okay, we have one nomination. So I would ask anybody else this question, so I'll ask myself this question. Mr. Green, would you accept the nomination if you were voted? And Mr. Green will decline that nomination.
I would like to nominate Mrs. Berkmeyer.
I have a nomination for Mrs. Berkmeyer. Mrs. Berkmeyer, would you accept this nomination if elected?
Yeah. Yes.
All right, I will ask again for any further nominations. One more time, third call. Any more nominations for the president of Anchor Bay Board of Education? Hearing none, I will have the secretary, Mr. Middlestat, call the roll. And again, Ms. Berkmeyer is the only candidate on the floor at this time. So I guess a simple yes or no, Mr. Middlestat, is that what you're looking for?
Yep. All right, Ms. Berkmeyer,
Yes.
Mr. Moses,
Yes.
Mr. Green,
Yes.
Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Richards,
Yes.
Mr. Middlestat, no, Mr. DeRue.
No.
Thank you.
Congratulations,
The
Ms.
most set up
Burkmeyer.
thing I've ever seen in my life.
Ms. Burkmeyer, you are now the president of the Anchor Bay Board of Education and will assume the duties of the agenda, ma'am. Congratulations.
Okay.
Just,
So reviewing,
never mind.
I'm sorry. Okay, so reviewing the agenda at this point, we will have a motion to go into closed session to review attorney-client privilege information under 8H of the Open Meetings Act regarding interim superintendent. If somebody would like to make that motion.
I'll
So
make the
moved.
motion. Oh, I'll second.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Green, seconded by Mr. Moses. If there's any discussion. Hearing none, Mr. Middlestat, will you please call the roll?
Burkmeyer,
Yes.
Mr. Moses,
Yes.
Mr. Green,
Yes.
Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Richards,
Yes.
Mr. Middlestat, no, Mr. DeRue.
No.
Thank you.
Okay, so at this time, the board it's 8:31. The board is going to exit this Zoom meeting and go into closed session with our attorney. And then we will return and there may or may not be action following our return. And then we're scheduled for open forum and adjournment. All right, thank you. Perfect. Okay. 9:02, we return to our meeting. I need a motion to return from closed session at 9:02.
So moved.
I'll make the motion. And I'll
Mr. Green has made the motion. Mr. Moses will second. Mr. Middlestat, can you please call the roll?
Ms. Burkmeyer,
Yes.
Mr. Moses,
Yes.
Mr. Green,
Yes.
Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Richards,
Yes.
Mr. DeRue,
Yes.
Mr. Middlestat, yes.
Okay. Returning from closed session, as I stated, for the Open Meetings Act, we went into closed session to review attorney-client privilege regarding our interim superintendent contract. At this point in time, do I have a motion to accept a contract or any other
Yeah,
action?
I move that the board authorize the board president and secretary to sign the interim superintendent contract for Todd Rathbun as presented.
Okay, the motion made by Ms. Knox to accept an interim superintendent contract for Mr. Todd Rathbun as presented. Is there a second for the motion?
Support.
Supported by Mr. Green. Is there any discussion?
I would just note that the contract is till for this next 6 months at the end of the semester, and then it doesn't automatically renew. Todd still has his current job as assistant superintendent, but also added these additional duties. So it's only for 6 months, or for the 6 months at the end of the year. Just wanted to make sure that was noted.
I believe it expires, sir, on June 30. I don't have it up in front of me, but I think June 30, 2021.
Okay. Yep. Okay.
Correct. I want to thank Mr. DeRue for doing the work on that contract leading up to this meeting and putting the work into that. Any other discussion before we call a vote? Okay, hearing none. Mr. Middlestat, if you would like to call the roll.
Ms. Burkmeyer,
Yes.
Mr. Moses,
Yes.
Mr. Green,
Yes.
Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Richards,
Yes.
Mr. Middlestate, yes, Mr. DeRue.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Congratulations, Mr. Rathbun.
Very nice.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your confidence, and I will do my absolute best and everything within my power to do the best job I can for you.
Thank you. At this point, we are into open forum for the meeting. Mr. Sizemore,
Madam President, before you do move to open forum, I do have one comment. The election of you into the seat of the president has created a vacancy in the treasurer seat. I don't know if you want, ma'am, if you want to deal with that today or you want to deal with that at your next regularly scheduled meeting.
I think we should probably move on that today unless I hear objections, but only because I know our next scheduled meeting, we will be getting into bills and such for our normal meeting agendas. So we can add that.
So as I'll make a motion to add to the agenda at this time, the election of a board treasurer.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor to add board treasurer election. Is there a second at this time?
I second.
I'll second.
Oh, I have a second from Ms. Knox. She beat you to it, Mike. Okay, any discussion? Whether we want to move on this at this time or we can, or if we're gonna table to the next meeting, we can discuss that at this point. Okay, hearing none, Mr. Middlestate, will you please call the roll for the addition of treasurer election to the agenda?
Ms. Burkmeyer,
Yes.
Mr. Moses,
Yes.
Mr. Green,
Yes.
Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Richards,
Yes.
Mr. DeRue,
Yes.
Mr. Middlestate, yes.
Okay. So we'll go ahead with that now. And do I have the floor open for nominations for the election of a treasurer to the school board on this date?
I would nominate Mr. DeRue.
Okay, there is a nomination for Mr. DeRue. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Moses. The way I'm going to run the election, we're going to do an up or down. So at this point, we're going to call the roll for the election of Mr. DeRue. I'm sorry, Mr. DeRue, do you accept the nomination?
Sure.
Okay. Any other nominations?
Actually, I would nominate Mr. Richards to join us on the board as the treasurer.
Okay, so I have a nomination for Mr. Richards and Mr. DeRue. Mr. Richards, do you accept the nomination?
Sure.
I'm sorry, I think you cut out before I could hear.
Yes.
You do accept, okay. Is there a second for the nomination of Mr. Richards for treasurer?
I will second.
Okay, Ms. Knox seconds for the nomination of Mr. Richards. All right, since we have two nominations, I'm going to continue the way we already ran an election during this meeting. So we're going to call a vote unless there's any more nominations. So
Is there discussion?
sure. Let me see real quick. Are there any further nominations at this time? Okay. Hearing none. So we have a nomination for Mr. Richards and we have a nomination for Mr. DeRue. We can have discussion if you would like, Mr. Middlestate.
Yeah, I nominated Mr. DeRue based on, he's got financial experience and he's been working on the board for a couple of years and is pretty deep into how things run financially and the contracts and everything else. So not to say anything against Mr. Richards, but it takes a while to understand how school finances run. So I would like to have somebody who has a little more experience, and I guess that's my opinion.
Okay. Any other comments or discussion? Okay, so we will move forward. Mr. Middlestat will call the roll. You will choose to elect either Mr. Richards or Mr. DeRue.
Ms. Burkmeyer,
Mr. DeRue,
Mr. Moses,
Mr. DeRue.
Mr. Green,
Mr. Richards?
Ms. Knox,
Mr. DeRue.
Mr. Richards.
Mr. DeRue.
It's fine. Mr. DeRue,
Mr.
yes, I'll put,
That?
what's your vote? Yes, for Mr. DeRue?
Sure.
All right, Mr. Middlestat, Mr. DeRue.
okay. Motion carries with Mr. DeRue. Sorry, not motion, but election is completed with Mr. DeRue as treasurer. Congratulations, Mr. DeRue.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And so now we will move forward with open forum. I'm going to have Mr. Sizemore help. Was there any submissions for open forum? I'm not seeing raised hands on my end, or if any board member wants to jump in. I know sometimes there's delays here and there. So if you see a raised hand, feel free to point it out. But right now on my screen, there are none.
None of mine, and there were also no submissions earlier either.
Okay, so no submissions. I'm still seeing none. I'll give it a minute or two, just because I know the experience with this, sometimes there is a delay when the hand raise goes up. Okay, last call. I'm still seeing none, so.
I'll move that we adjourn the meeting then.
Okay.
Second.
All right, I have a motion to adjourn by Mr. Middlestat and seconded by Mr. DeRue. Any discussion? Okay, and we will call the roll.
Ms. Burkmeyer,
Yes?
Mr. Moses,
Yes.
Mr. Green,
Yes.
Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Richards,
Yes.
Mr. DeRue,
Yes.
Mr. Middlestat.
Okay, the meeting is adjourned at 9:13, and we will be back in about 2 weeks with our regular scheduled board meeting. Good night, and everybody be well and be safe.